I think one of the world's greatest teachers is the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. The museum was established by an act of Congress in 2003 and then opened in September 2016. And just 4 years after its opening, it has become the world's busiest museum. The first, of course, is the Louvre in Paris. And the second is the Smithsonian's Air and Space Museum. And the reason that I think this museum is one of the greatest teachers is that it's because it's the place where people all across the world gather to learn the many and varied accomplishments, intellectual and cultural, of African Americans, those contributions to America and to the world. You know, as a child, my mom and dad taught my brothers, my 4 brothers and I, all the African American Black history that we knew. Though we attended what would be considered private, elite elementary and middle and high schools, we learned none of that history. Now, my parents, who had attended all Black segregated schools, Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C., and Sumner High School in Kansas City, Kansas, learned all of that history. And in many ways, their experience in their all Black school exceeded my brother's and my experience in our integrated private elite schools. But we learned that history at home. And unfortunately, you know, we know from the history of Western social and biological sciences that they were built on this faulty and perverse and troublesome assertion about Black intellectual inferiority. Well, the National Museum of African American History and Culture stands, like my parents did to me as a child, as this monument refuting this perverse falsehood about Black intellectual authority. And the museum also shows this interwoven history between African Americans and our nation's progress toward these pluralistic, you know, democratic ideals that we espouse. I believe that all great teachers, this is what I learned from my parents as their being my first teacher and my favorite teacher, that all great teachers affirm a healthy identity, all great teachers inspire, and all great teachers motivate the student to consider the great questions of life, who we are as humans, and what contribution we'll make to the world. So I say that the National Museum of African American History and Culture is one of the world's great teachers because it inspires this healthy identity. It motivates us to consider and seek answers to these great questions of history. It affirms a positive racial identity and knowledge about an intellectual and cultural history. I like how the museum is gathering people to itself, all from all across the world, and it's gathering those people to one another, and it's affirming that all of our humanity matters. So to me, the greatest teacher in the world is the National Museum, the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. And it is so for me because it affirms much of what I learned from my parents at home.